Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Hungry Bleak Show presents movies and series news. I am Antonio Pomares, aka the Hungry Bleak, the hungriest man in the room, and this is the cinema CEO. He is the cinema god. This is my partner in geek, Michael Williams. How you doing, sir?
What is up, y'all, for the third time today?
You look at my clock. Yep, it's okay. Having technical difficulties, folks, between the Wayne Tech, the Stark Tech, Skynet, all of it's just conspiring against me. It's fine, it's cool, whatever. How are you doing this evening, sir?
I'm good, brother. How are you? How are you?
I'm good.
You enjoying this heat, brother? Heat?
Am I enjoying the heat?
Mm-hmm.
That's a whole other show. That's a whole other show, brother.
Whole other show.
A whole other level. Actually, I'm sweating right now. I'm trying out a new deodorant, and I don't think it's gonna work out. I think I'm gonna give it it's a 30 days non-compete clause. Get the hell out of here.
See.
Get out of here, bro. And it's not natural stuff. I mean, not against anybody who uses natural stuff, but I need aluminum. I need aluminum foil. I need tin foil. I need all that, brother. I need all that up in there. Plastic wrap. I need all that mess up in there.
Yes.
So, as always, we have some things to talk about as far as movies and series news, because there's a lot going on. So we're going to give you some of stuff that's really hitting us. So first off, let's talk about Marvel Studios' Blade. Unfortunately, loses another director. This is the second director that they've lost. They have lost the director, Jan Demaj. Hope I'm pronouncing your name properly. It's a shame that we're losing another director. It's another one of the hiccups that we're having with this movie. Production has been, like we were talking about on the first take, production has been going, we heard about this from 5 years ago. We got the taste of Blade in the Eternals when we heard a voice and setting up a lot more. We were supposed to get Blade in the Werewolf by Night Halloween series, but that didn't work out. I feel like this is like another thing that's plaguing the MCU, which has not had the best run after the Infinity Saga, and especially as of late. Between things going on behind the scene, things going on in front of the camera, and things going on offset, which we're not even going to talk about. That would be a whole other couple episodes. This is unfortunate. We've talked about this twice now. So we're good and warmed up and loosened up. And what was the idea that you had was great, because I'm a huge fan of the event that's happening this summer.
Yes. Yeah. I honestly think that a lot of what's going on is probably like backroom dealing where people at Marvel, or at least Marvel Studios for that matter, not necessarily Kevin Feige. And no, I do not know anything intimate about anything that's going on. But
I was about to put on my glasses and be like,
but yes, it feels like there's a lot of meddling going on with this production, right? Like, I think that, as oftentimes, as you know, directors have one vision of what they want to do, and that doesn't necessarily coincide with what the studio wants. So I think that's the simplest way to kind of do this is rework your deal with Mahershala, right? Because at this point, Mahershala is well within his right to leave. You've been having him sit here for 5 years.
Yep.
This guy's an Academy Award-winning actor. 5 years can definitely shorten someone's career, as we know. So,
very much.
Just rework the deal and adapt Blood Hunt, which is the current event that's going on in Marvel Comics. I mean, it feels like they want. This is just my feeling as experiencing this whole thing, and how they're just coming back saying, no, this isn't what we want. No, we got this person's leaving. If there's all these creative differences going on, which is probably what is going on, then just make Blade an event movie, because it feels like this is what you kind of want to do anyway, right? So, and in the sense that you can make this a huge event movie that will blow fans' minds, is there's a golden opportunity here, right? Because no one's ever really seen a Marvel movie that kind of leans this heavily towards what do I want to say? Horror slash monster
Yeah.
type movies. And as we know in the Blood Hunt event, there are a ton of characters in this Blood Hunt event besides just Blade. And since you have all these characters anyway, just make this a phase, whatever phase we're in now, the next phase event movie.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
That would be great because I'm reading the Blood Hunt event. Obviously, I'm reading the main one. I'm reading a couple of the miniseries that are part of it, and it's an incredible event. And I'm not just saying that because I'm a Blade fan or because of the vampires, but it's incredible from the writing to the art to the actual story and where they're going with it.
Yeah.
And how it's tying into things that happened before this. This actually started, honestly, maybe months or a year ago in a Moon Knight, which I didn't even realize it had started then. What I would do is I keep banging this drum, but I believe that she's already attached to a project. Gina Prince by the Wood. That's who I keep imagining directing this. I would bring in Brian E. Hill, who wrote the most recent Blade series. I would bring in Danny Lore, who wrote Bloodline, who's also writing Dracula right now for Blood Hunt. Because I think they are phenomenal.
Yes.
In the writing of this, which I absolutely love.
Yes.
Yeah, they're just smashing across the bed. And I would obviously bring in Jed McKay because they're the one who constructed this event, I believe.
Yes.
As well.
Yes.
I would bring them in and just go to work, go to town, have fun with it, but also, bring in everything there because this is on a timetable.
Yes.
It truly is. For people who are, but this is something I'll also say too, is this shows a lot because people want to see this movie and they're excited and they want this. So the people are ready for it. They're really excited for this. So you have to pull the trigger. You have to do something. And yeah, Mahershala Ali, if he wanted to walk away, I wouldn't be mad at him at all.
No, not at all. Not at all.
I wouldn't.
Yeah, and I mean, ultimately, Marvel's eyes on the prize type thing is that they want to do a Midnight Suns sort of set up a Midnight Suns team and a future movie for that down the road, but you can still do that, right? You can bring all of the elements from Midnight Suns into a Blood Hunt event and just have them somewhat form at the end of it to be like, okay, we're never going to have another event. Like, not another event as in books or writing or whatever, but to be like, in the MCU proper, we're trying to prevent another something like Blood Hunt ever happening again. We're going to set up this team that's going to be able to kind of make sure that doesn't happen.
Right.
There you go.
That would be, I mean, it's funny. We always actually give them the answers here. Like we come up with the easiest, simplest way to do it. And they're like, this is what would make sense.
Exactly.
What would make sense. You can even bring in Damien Hellstrom. That was teased at one point. Why not? We had a really great Ghost Rider at one point, but I would understand them using other Ghost Riders because of the Midnight Suns tie-in. But still, you have these characters that you've had and kind of casted away for no reason.
Yes.
Hellstorm could have been something incredible. You could have really done something great with that, but you chose to go and fritter it away. I will say this: they're actually doing a second season of Hit Monkey, which I was not expecting. I saw that coming. I haven't even watched the first season, but yeah, you have to pull the trigger with this project. It's important. People are wanting it. It feels almost, I mean, not as wanted, but it feels like the similar type of hype and need that Black Panther was getting.
Yes,
because this is another one of those characters that we really wanted to see, and like, how are they going to fit him in? And you gave us a taste, and then you're not here. But we really need this. Let's make this happen. I will follow up on this because it's very interesting to me, and I want to see where this is going. But yeah, next up for you, Michael.
Yeah,
Sony.
Yes, Sony Pictures buying Alamo Drafthouse. Little story to drop this past weekend. Which was funny because when I read it, this was something that I had been talking about during the pandemic. The people who were asking me what happens now when all these theaters were closed and no content was coming out from the studios and all this other stuff. I was literally pontificating off the top of my head that I could see a situation where studios would start buying movie theaters because this is the only way that movie theaters are going to be able to survive.
Yeah.
At this point, right? And fast forward where out of the pandemic, theaters have reopened, movies are back in theaters, but people haven't necessarily gone back. So we're in a situation now where it's now possible for studios to buy theaters because there was a little thing that happened during the pandemic that I didn't even know happened. There was a rule on the books that was from the 30s, late 30s, early 40s that prevented this kind of thing from happening, from studios buying movie theaters because they were trying to kill off, price manipulation and movies only being shown in certain theaters. That was on the books until August 2020. It now no longer exists, which is now why you can have Sony buy Alamo Drafthouse. Now, Sony claims that they want to keep the aesthetic going with Alamo Drafthouse as far as it being what it is and it being a movie theater where you can go in and have a meal and all that other stuff. But this is very interesting because I can see this now happening to a lot of other places, like Regal, who's been in financial trouble for a very long time. AMC, that sort of is okay right now, but how much longer are they going to be okay is the question.
Well, they're the biggest name as far as like movie theaters right now, right? Like they're the ones who.
Pretty much.
Because I remember at a time when you went to Sony theaters, because that's what the theater near me is, an AMC. But years ago, it used to be a Sony theater.
Yeah. And I mean, to a certain extent, this had already kind of happened with Netflix because they bought the Paris Theater here in New York City, which is like a landmark theater near Central Park West, and they kind of used that just to kind of get their movies out that were going to be nominated for potential Oscars over the years. But this is huge. Like when you have a company like this buy a chain, I don't know. Like I hope it just doesn't lead to this whole thing where you can only see certain Sony movies at Alamo Drafthouse and not everywhere. I don't think they would risk that being a thing, but I could see it happening.
I mean, they did put out Madam Web. So here's the thing.
Yes, brother. Yes,
brother. Yes. Yes, brother. I was born in the web. You merely adopted it, brother. Yes, brother. Yes. Yeah, I can understand why that law would have happened. It feels like it is like would I even say collusion or but some type of manipulation going because it doesn't feel right. It almost feels like payola.
Yes.
In essence. So I can understand that. I'm interested to see what this looks like and what happens with it. We're still feeling repercussions and ripples from the pandemic. Just because we may not be in as much danger health-wise doesn't mean that there aren't still ripples being felt. We all see price gouging.
That's economically, certainly, yeah.
From your supermarket, how much are eggs? How much toilet paper?
Yeah, exactly.
Movie theater prices, obviously, popcorn and everything, rent, what have you. We have seen that. We've seen streaming services. We've seen it in so many things, especially in entertainment, because like you said, they had no place to put the where to put the content. We had numerous discussions about that for a fandom initiative. Yeah. So I'm interested to see what this looks like. I don't have enough knowledge in that particular arena to speak on it, but it is interesting to see what Sony will do and how this will change the game, ?
Yeah, because I could imagine that other studios are now sitting back kind of using this as the test balloon, right? And like, okay, well, let's see what happens. If it winds up being a success, then we may reach out to our exhibition partners and say, do you want to make a team up here?
Yeah. But I also, for some reason, see this going horribly wrong.
Yes, the potential for it to go horribly wrong is there, which is crazy to me because when I read that law, the law was basically they basically did away with the law in 2020 because they thought we could never go back to the way it was in the 40s. I don't know about that. I don't know about that.
I'm a black person. I don't ever want it to go back to the way it was in the 40s. So I'm against any of that business. I'm gonna be honest with you folks.
Yes, I
But
don't
yeah,
know.
this is something that we'll keep up on because this is actually very interesting to me. So I actually do want to read up on this because the idea of the potential for this could be something really great, but it can also be something that completely, just wreck a lot of things and cause a precedent that we don't need.
Yeah.
So we'll stay up on that. The next one is the Green Lantern series. Has got Damian Lindelof, who we know most recently, I want to say, for Watchmen. That's the most recent thing he was a part of,
Watchmen,
which
yes.
was, yes, give me
Awesome.
more of that, yes. And then we also have Ozark showrunner Chris Mundy. I haven't watched a lot of the Ozarks. I've only watched maybe a couple of episodes of it.
Yeah, Emmy-nominated series, Emmy-winning series. So
yeah, but it's phenomenal, and I'm a huge fan of Jason. Oh my God, what's his last name? Jeez. Jason Bateman. I don't know why I couldn't remember his last name. So this is interesting. Lindelof, I listened to the podcast for him when they were doing The Watchmen, and hearing the way he described it and hearing the thought process and everything that was going on was incredibly amazing. I loved listening to it and his thought process and him bringing everyone in from the writer's room and such like this. I think this could be really cool. It's going to be called The Lanterns. And they've already got like a Bible going, and they've got also Tom King has been a part of this. Tom King, I was actually just talking about him yesterday on another show that we do here. Tom King is an incredible writer. If you have not read The Vision from him, you must. The Vision and Mr. Miracle.
Okay.
Amazing. He's also writing the most recent, the ongoing Wonder Woman series right now, which is incredible work. He has a great way of deconstructing superheroes and just doing amazing. So if he's a part of this, I can see that it's going to be something really hitting. And these are some heavy hitters, honestly. So this is a really great thing. This will be, I'm probably going to be on Max. I would hope it'll be a Max show.
Yeah, I think it is a Max show.
Yeah.
Do they have a date when this thing is coming out?
No.
Of course not.
No. They don't have anything like. They just, if they're just announcing the writers now, then they don't have a date for that. They don't have it. No. They're like trying to pick, they're trying to get like a pickup game at the park to see who wants.
Yes.
Everybody's playing Street Fighter and you put your quarter down. I got next.
Yeah.
I got next. But this is interesting. I believe it's going to be, I think it's going to be Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart are going to be the Guardians. I don't think I've already told my opinion on how this should go. It should be more like Far Sector. Start with Joe, because that was a great Green Lantern comic, but it was at its core, it was a police procedural about her trying to figure out who committed this murder on a planet where there hasn't been a murder in millennia, and the different aspects. It was like a pure. You could have taken out the sci-fi aspect of it and everything, and it would have been like a great police procedural noir type of thing, hard-boiled detective type of thing. You could have easily done that as well, because that's how well it translates. I want to see how this goes, but with these heavy hitters there going on, especially Lindelof, and now seeing King's name, I'm excited by this.
Yeah, definitely. I've kind of been looking forward to this for a while because they've been talking about this forever. So
they talked about this when it was when they had the other streaming service, didn't they?
Yeah,
Max Go, and then before that when they had
the
DC streaming service, RIP, whatever the hell it was called, that you could only get certain places.
Yes, DC Universe. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, but I'm glad that I'm glad to hear Lindelof's name attached to it because Lindelof, to a certain extent, to certain fan bases, can be very divisive. Like, I know there's some people who still haven't forgiven him for how Lost ended, but it is what it is. I liked Lost. I liked how it ended. I loved his work on Watchmen. Like, that was probably some of the ballsiest stuff he's ever done in his career.
Phenomenal.
And it completely worked out. And yeah, I'm really excited to see where this goes because in some ways I feel like a Green Lantern property works better as a TV series versus as an actual movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially if you're going to have the two of them together.
Yeah.
Because even here, Lanterns will focus on two of the best-known members of the Green Lantern Corps, Hal Jordan, the test pilot who was the first one, and John Stewart, who's an ex-Marine architect.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to be it's going to have like a true detective kind of vibe.
Mm.
And it does say yes. And the project is separate from the Green Lantern series that was being developed by Greg Berlanti for Max with Finn Whitrock and Jeremy Scott, which I would have rather them had Guy Gardner and John Stewart. For some reason, because I feel like
no longer moving forward with the Finn Whitrock one.
I don't know. Let's see.
I think that's what it said at the bottom.
No longer, which makes sense.
Wow.
If you're going to have that, but I would fold those characters into this because if you're going to do the core, and if it's going to be like a True Detective kind of vibe, you can go to different partnerships within the core because some do work together more than others. Either way, I'm excited by this. I want to see this, and I want to see what it looks like the first season, and then go from there. I want to see what the special effects are going to be like as well. Yeah, this will be a cool one. But what I do want to talk about, because we're running down on time, is I want to talk about what you brought up, and I watched it today because I was like, oh, you know what? Let me see what this is, and that's First Omen.
Yes,
brother.
Yes, brother. Yes,
brother.
Brother.
Yes, brother. Yeah, yeah.
Well, let me start with what drew me to this because it was really interesting. Like I had no desire to see the movie until I saw recently an actual review by someone who I like to think is a friend of your show. This guy, what is his name? The guy who does these shows for Netflix. House of Bly Manor and all these other shows.
Oh, Flanagan?
Yes. Flanagan actually wrote a review of the First Omen, and I read it. He literally was saying, I don't know why this movie didn't do well. He's like, this movie is really, really good. And he doesn't understand why people didn't go see it. And I'm like, this guy is going out of his way to stump for this movie. I'm like, I need to watch this now. Right? Because it's very rare that you see someone who's not associated with something go out of his way to say, this is really good. You should be seeing this movie. You should watch it. Right? And I'm like, okay. So I watched it the other night. Me and Danny watched it the other night. And it is way better than I thought it could possibly be. Right? Like this is how you do a prequel in some ways, right? Because it leaves all the things that you know to the very, very end of the movie. But it at least tries to give you some context about how you got to that first Omen film, the original Omen film, right? So it's just well acted. There's some really creepy scenes in this movie that are just well done. Like,
bruh,
I was totally stunned at the end of it. I was like, literally, it made me sit up, and I was like, I'm like, they did a really good job with this. You know what I mean?
It's a great prequel. I watched it today because you said you wanted to talk about it, and I went in, and it's a great prequel. It's the type of prequel that I want. It's the type of prequel that I would say Rogue One was. It leads right into it.
I would agree with you on that.
Perfect. You know how it's going to end,
kinda,
but they give you those little details, and there was true tension.
Yes.
Like it wasn't just horror, it was real tension, heart. Like I was like, oh, I was fearful. And then in the beginning, I said, well, where'd that pipe go? I was like, where'd that pipe go? And then I said, Charles Dance. And I was like, where'd that pipe go? And I was like, don't tell me. And I was like, oh, all right. And then, there was a lot there between acting was great. It was riveting. You felt that paranoia. You felt for her. You wanted her to get out, run. But you know that's not going to happen. And then you find out at the end how it leads into it. But I don't remember I didn't know there was another child.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, Rick.
Which made me think there's a tie-in with another famous horror movie, The Exorcist.
Yes and no.
And Reagan.
Yes and no. Because I knew that there was a crappy TV sequel to The Omen long after.
Oh, yes.
That involved a little girl who was supposed to become the Antichrist, right? And when they showed that, I was like, when they showed that scene at the end of the First Omen, where she's having the babies and they pull out two kids, one being a male, which is what the church wanted to begin with, was a male. And then the other one being a female, I was like, wait a minute. I'm like...
That threw me. Yeah, I thought at the end he was going to say the name of the child was Reagan. And I knew it, but he didn't say it. I said, so I'm going to shut up.
He didn't, but I was like, wait a minute. I'm like, so are they trying to retcon The Omen 4, The Awakening, which was the TV sequel, and say that he had a sister all along, right? So in case something happens to Damien at some point, she becomes the heir to the church's plan to have an offspring of the beast on call, basically, to be able to take his place. I thought that was really, really interesting and brave to do, right? Because I don't know many people who've seen The Omen 4 who even know The Omen 4 exists. But for you to kind of do that thing, that little thing, to kind of set up, and what you've done with that really is now you set up practically a whole nother franchise with it, right? Because now you can have it where the church is going to keep coming for this girl at some point, right? And I think that would be an even more interesting story to see how those two girls have to keep running from the church to protect this girl. And then maybe this girl eventually gets kidnapped by the church or whatever, gets taken to take Damien's place at some point, which is crazy to me.
I love that idea. I'm gonna be honest with you. I want to do an episode where we just review like 3 movies yes. And we actually take like a little bit more than 30 minutes because this was actually really good. It was well worth watching, and they have all the Exorcist movies on Hulu as well.
Yes,
right. So if you haven't watched them, go watch them. They even have the reboot going on.
And shout out to what is her name? Nigel Tyler Free, who plays the
mother.
Plays Neil Tiger Free. Sorry, who plays the nun in the First Omen. If you don't know her, she was on Servant for 5 seasons on Apple TV with M. Night Shyamalan and his daughter. So, yeah.
So, folks, that's our show. Thank you very much. We will see you next time around. You all have a very good day. Enjoy it and go watch The Omen, please. The First Omen on Hulu because it's really banging. We'll see you all later. Peace.
All right.